Okay, so St. Paul is the founder of Christianity, not Jesus. Jesus didn't try to start a new religion. Jesus was just trying to take his own religion back to its roots. And this is heretical. I'm going into the heresy now. Probably you don't realize, you'll know that the temple that was in Jerusalem, the one, Herod's temple, was the second temple. Possibly? There was a first temple. The first temple was Solomon's temple. Solomon's temple worshipped the divine masculine and the divine feminine. This is in the Bible. It's hidden in plain sight. You have to look for it. And how we know this, to start with, is that in the Hebrew Testament, well, there are 10 names for God in the Hebrew Testament, but there are 2 primary texts which are put into the Hebrew Testament. There's the Elohist text and there's the Yahwist text. The Elohist text is the earliest one, and that says, it's the whole of the first chapter of Genesis is the Elohist text. It says, in the beginning Elohim created the heavens of the earth. Elohim is a feminine plural. Elohim means goddess or goddesses. So Mother Nature created this planet and the universe. It's in the Bible. Now, when Elohim creates humanity, she becomes Yahweh Elohim, because this is symbolic of the very, very ancient teachings, our earliest teachings about faith, are that in the beginning, when people were in the stage of poking at the sky with sticks to try and work out what was up there, in the beginning, we thought that the Creator was feminine because we could observe that it was women who gave birth. So if the universe was born, then it had to come from a goddess. Then the second way of believing was that it was the feminine impregnated by the masculine, because they found out how sex worked by then. And that one worked out okay, so it was God impregnating goddesses. And in fact, you can say that Elohim might be the second one, because a lot of scholars say that the heme bit on the end of Elohim is a masculine plural. So it almost implies sperm and egg, which is perfect. Though it's not entirely true, because the word for women in Hebrew is nashim, which is a feminine ending. But scholars, people, mostly blokes. Sorry, bit of prejudice going in there. So, the universe was created by the goddess, and then she gave birth to her son Yahweh, and it was Yahweh Elohim who created humanity. Now, no, that's not strictly true. Elohim created humanity. Yahweh Elohim formed humanity. Now that's a really subtle difference, which is difficult for us nowadays to grasp. But there are 4 levels of creation in all the ancient mythological texts. And that's why we've got 4 Gospels, frankly, because they're working on the 4 levels of the myth. And the first level is that there's an emanation. God is an emanation, not even existing, emanation. Then there's creation, then there's formation, and then there's manifestation. Emanation is where you have the great idea, which was, I'd love to do a talk at Tunes in the Park. I'd love to do a talk about where God went wrong. Then the creation is, well, what am I actually going to talk about? How am I going to structure this? The formation is actually, I better cut that bit out and that bit, and I better not say fuck too often because they're going to be pissed off with me. And then the manifestation is when I'm sitting here talking to you. And it works out, it's the same if you have an idea, you want to write a book, for example. You've got a great idea, but then you've got to structure it, and then you've got to form it, and then it becomes real. Think about a horse. The idea of a horse, what a horse is. A horse is a running, warm-blooded prey animal. That's the emanation of a horse. It's a beautiful, big, running prey animal. It's not a predator. Then the creation of the horse is, you can have a male horse and you can have a female horse. You can have a big horse, you can have a little horse, and your horse is going to be born, reproduce and die. Then you have the formation of the horse, which is, what kind of horse is this? Is this a Haflinger? Is it a Shetland pony? Is it a Lipizzaner? Is it an Andalusian? Is it black? Is it brown? Is it white? And then there's the actual horse being born as an individual. Does that make sense? So that's how they worked it all out. So Elohim did the creation of the universe. Elohim was an emanation in herself. She created the universe. And then in the second chapter of Genesis, along with Yahweh, she forms humanity. Humanity was created androgynous. The first Adam, it's called Adam and it's called he, but it isn't. It's an androgynous being. It's both male and female. It's only when we come along with Yahweh Elohim, because Elohim's now got two aspects of itself, that it becomes a male and a female. And incidentally, it's Adam's side that Eve is taken from, not his rib. However, once we get past the story of the tree of knowledge and they leave Eden, the Yahwist text takes over. And in fact, Eve says, I have gotten a man from Yahweh, when she gives birth to her children. And after then, Yahweh is the dominant voice in the Hebrew Testament. And that's where the women start getting a bit of a rough deal. But the first temple, which was Abraham's temple, it's Solomon's temple, they're one of the primary names they had for God. Abraham's name for God was El Shaddai, which means the multi-breasted one. It was only when Moses and the Moses law came along that Yahweh really took off. But then they wrote the Yahwist text and they edited the two together, and then they added priestly texts and law-written texts and added in laws and added. There's so much editing. It might have been the word of God to start with, but by George has it been edited.